Hey, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us for a little while today. We just wanted to take a few minutes in this season that we're in with the COVID-19 outbreak and all the different things that are going on. And we know that we're hearing a lot of voices through social media, through news outlets, through all these different things. And we just wanted to give you our perspective of what's going on right now. And so we're going to take some time today, just do a little Q&A with Pastor Heath. Pastor Heath, thanks for taking a few minutes of your time to just join us and hang out with us for a little while. And we just want to talk to you about what's going on and some of the fear and anxieties that's out there and how we feel like we can address that as a church and let you just hear from our lead pastor on his perspective of how you can deal with everything that's happening in the world today. So let me just ask you, Heath, first off, if you had a message for everybody right now, just with everything that's going on in the world, and there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of uncertainty is probably the best word to describe what we're feeling right now. What message would you want to just tell people that's part of our church or anybody for that matter of how we should be addressing what's going on?
I think one scripture that's been coming to mind to me a lot is First Timothy 1:7. Paul writes to Timothy, young pastor, and he tells him, he says, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but love, power, and a sound mind. And for me, definitely in this season and other seasons of stress and anxiety and worry, that verse has been one that I have memorized because I use it a lot to encourage me. And I think that's the message, God would say to us is we don't have to live in fear. Now, it's natural to have concerns. It's natural to want to plan, to prepare. Don't hoard. Some of y'all didn't need all that TP. But to do those things, to be rational, to be responsible, but in that, we don't have to be fearful because God was not taken by surprise by this. He knew us in our mother's womb before we were ever born. Scripture tells us, He knew us before He ever laid the foundations of the earth, and so we don't have to live in fear. And it's funny in the end of that verse, He says that God has given us not a spirit of fear, but love and a sound mind. And I think about those two things. One, I think about love. In this time, the challenge for me is how can we love our neighbor and yet still stay socially distanced? And so one thing, I know some of you know this, is I've been sending messages, text messages, emails, Facebook messages, just trying to reach out and let people know we still love them, care for them, and while at the same time maintaining distance, like we are now.
Yeah,
we are
absolutely.
socially distanced.
Yeah, I didn't get a hug or a
You didn't
handshake
get
or
a
anything
hug,
today.
but I
It's
did give you the
he
Vulcan.
gave me the Vulcan, and I'm not a
Welcome,
Trekkie, so I
welcome.
don't really know what that means.
Yeah.
But that's
You
cool.
know, also I'm sitting here looking at this candle, and I think we're having a fireside chat like President Roosevelt, but our fireside is
Just a
is a
little
Glade candle from the
candle.
bathroom.
But at least it smells good.
It does
So
smell good.
that's good.
You smell good.
So did you just say I smell good?
Yeah,
Well,
you smell
thanks, man. I
good.
appreciate that. Not that you've been close enough to smell me,
No,
but
maybe
anyway,
it's the candle.
it's just the candle.
I don't know.
So I know, like in this season, like we as a church have even been dealing with this,
Oh, yeah.
this stress, this uncertainty, this anxiety, because we don't know what is to come, and it seems like everything's changing so rapidly, so
Yeah.
fast. It's not even just it's not a day by day thing. It's almost like hour by hour. I mean, just last week we were preparing to maybe not have church. We looked at it, and then within a couple of hours on Thursday afternoon, stuff came out where we felt like that's what we needed to do. So, how do you suggest for folks that are just really trying to just keep up with everything and really trying to be wise through it all? Because I think you made a good point. We definitely don't have a spirit of fear, but we also want to be wise.
Yeah.
So.
Sound mind. I think sound mind means to me, when I think of that, and we are, one, staying focused on God. We're not being irrational. We're not letting the fear avalanche cascade over us. But also, we want to be proactive. And I think for me, when you ask me, the big thing that I've tried to do during this time is just be flexible. To understand that, like last week, I may have a plan today, but in an hour it may change.
Yeah.
And the best thing I can do is be flexible, be smart, try to be proactive. I listened to a great podcast yesterday by a guy, and he said, don't listen to pundits like me. He said, listen to actual scientists and doctors who know what's going on. And so whatever political persuasion you are and whatever news you watch, just try to weed through all that and listen to the people who are healthcare providers who are actually telling us what we need to do. And that's why we as a church felt we needed to not meet and be responsible. And while we're trying to do small groups.
Yeah, digitally, yeah.
And so I just think, for me, the big thing is be flexible and just be proactive and take it serious. You may be healthy, but it's like you don't want to give it to your 90-year-old grandpa. So that's what I would say.
Absolutely. So you just mentioned something there, and I think it's kind of huge. We are in this season. It's not allowing us as a church to meet together in our physical space in this room right now, but this is allowing some cool opportunities. So
yeah.
It's caused us as a staff to get real creative. It's caused us as different ministry areas to get real creative. We're doing community totally online now, and it's bizarre, but it's interesting too, because as our culture just kind of keeps moving more and more to online, I think it's caused us as a church to get real intentional about how we create great. Our mission as a church, we say, is to create great environments where disengaged people can engage with God's purpose. Do you feel like this is, in some way, this is we're never thinking that the COVID outbreak is a good thing, but God's really kind of helping us to be creative in some ways that might even help us in the future?
Oh, totally. I think, it's kind of the old adage, turn lemons into lemonade. The world has been digital and online and living in that space for a long time now, and the church, like we do a lot of times, and I'm talking Big C church, not necessarily Pinnacle, has been slow to get into that space. There are some forward-thinking churches like Life Church, North Point, others, Mecklenburg Church that have been doing that. And I just think this, for me, I think this is a real opportunity for the church to do some creative things and to really go where people have been. And so we're not disengaging with you. We're just doing it digitally. I think I said that word right. I murder words sometimes. My wife was making fun of my video the other day. But it's an opportunity for us to engage with you. And, of course, we're going to continue to do things like this. We're going to put out content. Our student ministry is meeting online tonight. We're going to do our live stream every week. And if it gets to the point where they're like, you can't even do that, you have to just stay home like they're doing in some countries, then I will bring content from my living room with you. And we've got plans for all of that. We're going to stay engaged until we get back to whatever normal is, and we can come back in this room and gather. And, I think we will get back to that. This is not going to last forever. History shows us that even the flu pandemic in the 1900s, 17, whatever, society got back to normal eventually. We will be back to meeting as a church, but in the season we're in now, we're working hard to provide content for everybody out there so you can stay connected. So we as a church are still gathering. We're just doing it in this new space. Thank God for technology.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank God for that. And you're still the church, whether or not you show up here on Sunday. You still be the church wherever you're at home, work. I know a lot of you are still having to work, and be cautious in that. And so just keep being the church.
Absolutely. So there is stuff out there, and I just wanted to get your input on it, because there's people are talking in a very fearful tone in a lot of ways of, oh man, is this the end? Or should we be worried that this is this COVID outbreak, is this something that God's doing
it's a zombie apocalypse?
It's the end of the world. Is this happening? So what would you say to people that are maybe, and in some ways that's a valid concern, but what would you deal with that? How would you respond to that?
Well, one, I think we need to take this serious, and we are. But two, I don't want to minimize what's going on, but end of the world, I don't know. I do know that the Lord said we will not know the day and hour, and there's lots of signs, and I just don't think, Jesus can come back when he wants to, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
If he wants to come right now, that'd be kind of cool. But I think, that's just falling into that fear and paranoia. See, I didn't say that right.
Paranoia, but I knew what you meant.
I butcher words all the time. Do you want me to say ton?
No, I do not, because nobody understands any word you say with the G.
I know. I drop my G's. But, I don't think we need to fall into that fear of that. And God's going to come back when he comes back. I'm not a prophet. I'm a pastor, and I'm not a soothsayer. I don't know when the world's going to end. I don't think the world's going to end. I think some things are going to change, and we can't know the future. Yeah. And the Lord said, Jesus said, don't worry about tomorrow. It has enough troubles. Worry about today.
Yeah, I agree. I think
so. I'm going to focus on today.
I agree. I heard someone say it like this. I should be, whether or not I feel like this is the end of the world, or whether or not I feel like it's a long time from now, really shouldn't change the way I follow Jesus, no
No.
matter where I'm at. So I should be following Jesus, like every day
Yeah.
that's coming. So not in a spirit of fear, but just in a spirit of obedience. So,
Whatever season we're in, it doesn't change our relationship with Jesus. It doesn't change the way we follow him. And season like this gives the church an opportunity to step up and be the church. And I know that's kind of hard when you're quarantined. How can we love our neighbor? And people have asked, how can the church help? I think that we definitely, we don't want to try to recreate something that we're not good at. And so I'm encouraging people to look for those organizations that are feeding people and ministering to people, or not ministering, but the healthcare professionals and things, and find ways to support organizations like that, like the Red Cross or places that are doing testing. Or, some people say we need to support small businesses. That's great. Well, don't go there and eat. Go online if you can and buy a gift certificate. You've given them money, and then you can go eat when it's safe.
I agree.
So just things like that.
Yeah, that's cool. Like I was talking to one of our small group leaders the other night, and they did a little just drop off at their house. People gathered, like some one person in their group works at a hospital, and so they got together like some little goodie bag stuff
cool.
and just like snacks and things, and nobody touched. They Lysol and wiped it all down, and then they took it off. They took it off to the hospital this morning, I believe. So
yeah,
I think
it's time to get creative.
It's time to get creative in how we can serve our community.
How we love our neighbor.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Do like the paper boy. If you got extra toilet paper and your buddy don't have it, just drive by and toss it in his mailbox.
Yeah.
Hey, you can make a game out of that.
Oh gosh.
You can see who can get it closest to the door. Kobe.
There you go. A minute ago, people are asking that question. What can they do to help? What would your response be to people that are a part of Pinnacle Church? What can they do to help our community?
Well, I think first, look for organizations that are doing those things, that are helping to feed people, healthcare, just Red Cross. I'd read the other day Red Cross needed blood. Look for those organizations that are doing things to help the community and get involved with that, because they've got the structures to do that. Then when you come to church, we, of course, are still being the church, doing church things. We're just not meeting on Sunday. And so the number one thing you can do there, of course, you can't volunteer your time right now because we're all quarantined from each other, socially distancing. But what you can do is continue to give, because we as an organization still have to operate. We still have to minister to people. And if our giving goes down, then we have to make choices about who we can and can't help, and we don't want to do that. Just yesterday, we had a couple come in here, and they needed help, and we were able to help them because, you guys are faithful in your giving. And so I had a friend say the other day, it was Tim Owens actually, who used to be on staff here. He said when he looks at giving, he sees it in three ways. You have tithers, you have givers, and you have beginners. The tithers, he said, continue to be faithful, continue to tithe. You're doing what God desires of you, and God will bless you for that. He said, givers, you're giving. You're maybe not tithing, but you are giving. He said, this could be a time for you to pray and maybe stretch yourself a little bit. Beginners, he said, if you're a beginner, this might be a time for you to give for the very first time, to set up where you're going to go online and systematically give. And it might not be a lot, but listen, a lot. It doesn't have to be a lot to make a difference if everybody's doing it. And so you could say, I've never gave before, but I'm going to give $5 a week. And I know some of you, you're in a tough financial time. It's going to be hard for you to give. And so we're not expecting you to do that. But those of you who've not lost your job, maybe your circumstances changed, you're still getting paid, you're still financially okay, you're just not working, you're at home working. We want to encourage you to continue to give, because it's actually helping people, and we will continue to help people, because we know that there are going to be more and more people coming here for help, and we are, committed to still be in the church and doing that. And so that's a way that you can help with that.
Yeah, I agree. And like we've been talking about, our mission as a church hasn't changed. Just because we don't get together here on a Sunday morning physically in this space, our mission's to create environments where disengaged people can engage with God's purpose. And we're getting to do that now.
We're doing that. And I just had a thought about that. If you log in on a Sunday and you are watching our live stream, or you watch it later with your family or whatever, think about it this way. You've got the ability then to where when you come here on Sunday and you worship with us, great. But you've got your who's your one, or you got friends and family you're praying for, you want them to have a relationship with Jesus. You invite them to church. You need to do that when we get back, because there's just some amazing things that happen that you can only experience in the building. But outside of that, you've got an opportunity now. You can share this with 100 people on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And I want to encourage everybody to do that. You know, when you tune in, share it on your page. Share it with your friends. Invite your friends.
Yeah, we just went through this season a month or so ago when we talked about who's your one, and we got this awesome board in the back of our facility now with full of stickers that represent a person of who are the people that we're investing in. And I feel like in some ways, digitally, there's a really cool way to do that now, to invest in your one, to make an invite just by simply sharing a stream or sending somebody a link that says, hey, watch this with me today and let me know what you think. I think that's a really cool way to maybe invest in your one.
You know, and as we're thinking about this, I was just thinking in my mind about, you know, being stuck at home, and I'm an empty nester now. My kid, you know, is in her late 20s, but you're a parent of a little kid.
Yeah.
How are you dealing with that, having the kids at home, and how do you think parents, you know, when their little kid asks them questions and the kids are scared, and how are you as a parent dealing with that?
So Sally, my wife, and I were talking about that yesterday. First of all, I spent yesterday, I'm just really trying to social distance. We're here today. We're keeping our distance from each other. But yesterday I worked from my house for the first time in a long time. And my wife stays at home with our 2 kids during the week anyway. And after doing that yesterday, she deserves a pay raise. Because I couldn't do that, man. She's hanging out with my kids all the time, and she's great. And I told her, like, hey, you deserve, like, a lot more, like, massages and gift cards and stuff. Like, I don't pay her enough because she is amazing.
Now.
Yeah, I know. She's gonna hold me to that later. But so yeah, I mean, we sat there and like we're having staff meeting yesterday, and my son Reed like runs over and has to say hey to everybody, and you know we're just navigating through all that. And but I think. First of all, I'm a parent of younger kids. My oldest is 4. My youngest is 18 months. And I think the thing that we're trying to make sure that we do is kids really feed off of what their parents are sharing, especially like young kids. And so if me and my wife are freaking out, even my son at 4 years old, he's going to feel that. And so I think that I think it's important for us to be honest and to be real with our kids, but at the same time show them that, hey, like, you know, if we really believe the gospel and we really believe what God says, we don't have to have a spirit of fear. We know He's in control and He's working all this out. And we even talk about that with Reed, our 4-year-old, and what that looks like for him. You know, he doesn't really have a clue what's going on in the world today, but I know there's a lot of parents that are dealing with that, though, because their kids are in school and now they're not. And, you know, you've got teenagers who are well-versed in what's going on in the world and hearing all this stuff. And so how do you talk to them about what's going on? A cool thing is our next generation, Pastor Walker, he's got some great content he's going to be sharing with you parents soon of some conversation guides you can be having during this time. And so if you haven't yet, check those out because they're phenomenal. But I think it's just, especially when you're parenting like older kids and teenagers, I think the most important thing is that you're real. You know, you share with them your fears and your anxieties, but you also share with them the fact of, you know, hey, yeah, we're anxious and we're nervous, but we don't have to have that spirit of fear like you were talking about earlier. And I think that's super important with teenagers. I think sometimes we want to hide it from them. And not let them, you know, just let them think things are hunky-dory. And I think in times like this, it's important that you're real and you're open with your kids. And it's okay for them to see you as not perfect human beings. And it's okay to be vulnerable with them.
Right?
Yeah, it's a good time to be honest and be real with them. Well, Heath, man, this has been so rich. And I hope it's helpful to people just to kind of hear our response and how we're processing through this. Because that's a big thing, like, that I've been talking about with a lot of folks is this is unprecedented. Like, it's not like in the modern era we can go back and be like, hey, how do people respond to something like this 5 years ago? This hadn't happened before in our lifetime. And so, like, we don't really have a lot of places to go get wisdom from. And so we're doing a lot of this navigating on our own. So I really appreciate this time. Thank you for giving us your time. And this is great. I think some of my takeaways from today are just one, you know, we don't have to have a spirit of fear. We can look forward to knowing that God is still in control. 2, I think the big thing is knowing that, hey, we can still engage as a church. We can still be the church, even though we're not gathering together on a Sunday morning. Sunday gathering is not the church. It's just something that we do. It's a method. We talk about it all the time. It's just a method that we use to gather. And so we got some cool ways to do that digitally now. We can still be involved in what the church is doing through giving and helping love our neighbors. And I think as as parents, we just need to be wise and looking at like, hey, how are we going to help our kids through this, and be wise as we try to navigate. Go to the right people. Don't trust everything you read or see on social media. Go to the experts to try to figure out how you need to respond. I think that's really, really important. So, man, this has been great. I really appreciate it. Guys, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to try to do some more of this type stuff over the next few weeks. So make sure to check us out, either YouTube, podcast, all the different channels that this is going to go through. And we're just excited to be able to do this type of stuff. And we're going to be here to help navigate through this season. We love each one of you, and thanks for taking time to hang out with us today.
See you guys.